G'day guys and gal. In the current setting of Warhammer 40k, there are demons and shit like everywhere. You can't walk more than 5 meters without tripping over a bloodthirster. Heck, I can't even get a good wank in without the moist crab claws of a daemonette snipping at my scrotum. Chaos is all around us, but did you know that despite them literally being the lords of most of the warp and existing for millions of years, up until 10,000 years ago they barely did anything? Why is that? Why was the Eldar and human empires of old completely free of chaotic corruption? Why did the concept of demons seem like little more than a myth? What were those cheeky bastards up to? Before we get started, I want to quickly share an update about some of the Majorkill minis. The Shark Squad as well as the Chaplain have all been remastered and updated to fit the proportions of official models. I don't see the Majorkill minis as replacements or competitors for GW models, I see them as a supplement or as like a hero unit that you can build your army around. As such, I want the models to fit seamlessly into official armies and even be kit bashable with official models, so that's what I've done. They're a bit smaller, their shoulder pads have been adjusted, and their power packs are now less how you doing. I'm also reducing the price of the Chaplain by another $5 because someone's got to do something about that damn inflation. So if you want to spruce up your army and support the channel, then have a browse through the Majorkill minis. I'm sure you'll find something you like, and as all prices are in Australian dollars, with some of the cheapest international shipping you'll ever get, this is some of the best valued plastic crack around. Today we'll look at what Chaos was up to before the Age of the Imperium. We will be checking out how Chaos has changed and why it seemingly waited so long before it played its hand. This video will also go into the origins of Chaos, so that's pretty fun. Let's get into it. First up, how old is Chaos? When and why did the ruinous powers flop out their willies and begin turkey slapping the galaxy? Well, old lore had them being created during various events in humanity's history. Khorne would pop up during the Great Crusades, Nurgle during the Black Death, and Titsnitch during the Renaissance. But for very obvious reasons, this is no longer canon. A, because that would make the Emperor older than the gods of chaos, and B, it sucks humanity's dick way too hard. Like the galaxy was full of xeno races, more populous and psychic than us, yet we get to create a literal demon god of war just because everyone was having a wank fest over who could genocide Jerusalem the most. Hence the current canon is that during the War in Heaven 60 million years ago, the Old Ones' abuse of the warp combined with the obscene amounts of death and destruction resulted in the realms of chaos being created. Large parts of the warp went from a nice calm sea of souls where anyone could enjoy an afterlife to a raging tempest of war, manipulation, violation and space aids. But this begs the question, if chaos has been a thing for over 60 million years, why is it only in the last 10,000 years that they've been giving the galaxy a genuine crack? Well, it's important to note that the Chaos Gods didn't just pop up with all their power and good looks. It took them a while to form sentience, figure out what the fuck is going on, and begin complaining accordingly. For example, when the War in Heaven ended, with the Necrons going to sleep, the Old Ones going extinct, and the Catan being put into Pokeballs, the Warp unleashed a tide of warp entities called Enslavers to fuck with everyone. Although these could be considered demons, they definitely had no allegiance to any of the gods of chaos, which shows that the warp was heavily contested during this time, with the realms of chaos not yet being the dominant force within the warp. After the Enslaver Plague, the Eldar had about 60 million years of galactic dominance. They were supremely powerful, with technology beyond your wildest dreams. They were also immortal. Whenever they died, their spirit would enter the warp and eventually reincarnate into a new body whenever they felt like it. In short, they were just too powerful for Chaos to challenge. If Chaos sent forth their demonic armies, they would have gotten pwned. For one, not many people were praising or feeding Chaos, hence their demon armies were small and weak. For another, the Eldar Empire at their peak would shit on anyone's tits. On top of that, the Eldar gods were powerful and they controlled a large section of the warp, hence the gods of chaos were lower down the food chain. As such, they focused more on dominance within their own corrupted sections of the warp, fighting each other more than anyone else. They would occasionally exert influence on real space, corrupting a vulnerable Xeno race here and there, with Be'lakor being said to have once controlled an entire sector of space. However, due to the Eldar's power, they could do little more than that. Then, humanity grew opposable thumbs and became a player in the galactic shitfest. There were some instances of early demonic activity within the fledgling mankind. Stuff like Drakion being created when the first human committed murder, or the fact that the psychic shamans would get preyed upon by warp entities. But once again, as the Chaos Gods were weak, there wasn't a whole lot they could do to humanity. Hence, humanity evolved much like we are today. There were a few cheeky Easter eggs, such as when Genghis Khan was chosen by Khorne to become a demon prince called Doombreed, but overall not much happening. It didn't help that mankind shed its religious beliefs to become an extremely progressive and scientifically advanced society, creating their own galactic empire with technology to rival and even surpass the Necron and Eldar empires. Needless to say, Chaos just couldn't catch a break. Every race they wanted to prey on became literal fucking science gods, which is the opposite of what Chaos wants. Orcs also weren't an avenue that Chaos could go down. All the war, scheming, and other negative emotions that the Orcs reveled in would only serve to power their own gods, Gork and Mork. Hence for nearly 60 million years, Chaos was nothing more than a bottom feeder. Then those fucking horny space elves just had to ruin everyone's shit. The Eldar had gotten bored of being literal gods for 60 million years. They never had to work for anything, as their technology would fight all their battles and perform all their labor. As such, they were free to pursue whatever leisurely activity they desired. At first this was innocent, stuff like music, painting, making shitty YouTube videos, that kind of stuff. However, as time went on, they pushed this further to more extremes. Music became rapping, painting became fucking, and making shit YouTube videos became railing extremely fat slugs of space cocaine. Now that does sound like a bit of harmless fun to us. However, the Eldar experience emotions to a way higher degree. They are also all hot, so imagine you're having awesome space cocaine while having an orgy with the hottest big titty Eldar girlfriends, then times that by 10. The amount of psychic force this was generating was enough to begin creating warp storms throughout the galaxy, and even begun to corrupt what was previously the pristine Eldar afterlife. As the Eldar's actions got more and more depraved, those warp storms got worse and worse. Eventually, those warp storms began to disrupt humanity's empire, isolating worlds from one another and cutting off their supply chains. To make matters worse, either through basic sci-fi logic or the subtle influence of chaos, humanity's AI and robots turned against their masters, resulting in a vicious civil war that killed a lot of people and degraded humanity's technology by thousands of years. This was known as the Age of Strife, which is a bit of an understatement. Hence now we had a sadistic, machistic Eldar empire whose constant blood orgies were corrupting the warp and causing warp travel to become nearly impossible, and a humanity who was suddenly very vulnerable, fearful, and mistrusting. The scales had tipped towards the Chaos Gods, who began to feed on all this negative emotion. This was about the time the Emperor popped up and decided to clap the galaxy's cheeks. He took over Earth and realized that when the Eldar's galactic climax hit its peak, a new Chaos God would be born, the shockwave of which would clear out all the warp storms and make a galactic conquest viable. And that's exactly what happened. Slaanesh was born and killed 99% of the Eldar. The part of the warp that used to belong to the Eldar gods became the realms of Slaanesh, as the newly born rape god devoured the Eldar gods one by one. Only Isha, Cain, and Seogorach survived. Isha because Nurgle kidnapped her to use as his test subject for all his plagues, Cain because Khorne punched him so hard that he shattered into 1,000 pieces, hence why Avatar of Cain's exist, and Seogorach because he was smart enough to nope the fuck out when Slaanesh started violating the other Eldar gods with their tentacles. Hence no Eldar Empire and no Eldar gods, the two main things keeping chaos at bay. The safeguards against chaos were now gone. On top of that, psykers began randomly appearing amongst humanity. These untrained psykers were easy prey for the now empowered chaos, who broke their minds and used their bodies as portals to send demons to invade human worlds. In only a few thousand years, chaos had gone from a small parasite in the warp to the dominant force. Their realms had grown, now encompassing most of the warp. By the time the Great Crusader had begun, the Chaos Gods had demonic agents spread throughout the galaxy. They had entire races dedicated to their worship, and their demonic armies were powerful enough to conquer entire systems. Despite this, they still played it cool. They weren't yet powerful enough to challenge the Emperor's new Imperium, so they used subtle yet effective tactics to slowly sway half the Primarchs to their cause. With Horus under their command, they were finally ready to make their existence known, hence begun the Horus Heresy. And the rest is history. I give Chaos a lot of shit, but I am impressed with how patient they were. If they had overcommitted too early, then the Eldar would have gone into the warp themselves and likely destroyed the realms of Chaos. It's important to note that whilst Chaos do have the ability to see the future, it's not super accurate and it can change rapidly. So it wasn't like they knew they would come out on top for sure. They bided their time, waited for the space elves to get bored and horny, then they went in for the kill. With the birth of Slaanesh, Chaos technically got an instant huge power boost by suddenly having another god thrown into the mix. Chaos is kind of like a horny teenager who just discovered masturbation. It can blow and blow, but sometimes, generally around when the dick starts developing a chafing rash from overuse, it needs a timeout. After the Horus Heresy, Chaos was knocked on its ass for a while and put in the naughty corner. Like the Imperium had enough breathing room to get fucked on by the Orcs and itself without Chaos coming in to capitalize on their weakness. However, in the 41st millennium, there is no more dick chafing. The blowing has returned with a vengeance. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be. Only $1 per month give you access to a boatload of Battle Mace 40 million hentai. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more wanky content. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.